Alrighty. Let's get started with the weekly live stream. I'm your host, Paul Speed, and the developer, on another episode of Watch Paul Write Bugs. So, get started. Thank my patrons. Thanks again, guys. Support really matters. If anybody wants to become a patron, there's the link right there. Any amount gets you some benefits like access to the private chat channel in Discord, and access to the open source libraries before they're released. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on because I got a lot to do tonight. So last week, we played with the burbs, the Gafen, and got them all running around and stuff, or got them loaded, not running around yet, I guess. And sorry, my cord's really bugging me here. So and I played with it some more, and got it to the point where they could run around and they looked, semi-intelligent. I'll show you a little bit about that. This week I took a sidetrack. Once I got the Gafen working, I took a sidetrack to start playing with prototyping some control schemes for swinging tools around and stuff. I'll show you that real quick because now the game remembers what you were holding when you were holding it, so now it remembers that I was holding my sword when I logged out last time. So the idea being that, if you click and drag, you could swing your sword around. It's very basic because it's not hooked up to the animation. I just wanted to see if I could get the controls working. That it would know when I clicked and dragged the mouse. It's kind of enticing, but still a little frustrating, and it's kind of funny. We can whack the bricks and it it's kind of fun. Anyway, there's something here, right? Because it's fun to play with. It's very awkward, so there's a lot of stuff to work out, and it's not keyed into the animations yet, so she's not holding her arm to do it, and the control scheme's weird, and the sword doesn't really swing, and I was just trying to make sure if I did a click to drag the mouse and that I could get her to still face the same way while we did it and stuff like that. All that's got to be worked out, but in the meantime, I was just showing that because I was holding the sword. So we got the Gafen doing reasonably clever things here. We can have a bunch of them, and as shown in the video before, they kind of avoid walking into things. They occasionally freak out like that. That's because they hit their run cycle because they got bumped faster than they normally walk. And so if there's a bunch of these around, sometimes they bump into each other. But I run into an issue because the only reason I got them to look this nice was because I messed manually with the probe that we can't see, but each of them has this invisible sphere that they walk in front of them. And when that sphere intersects something, they think, oh, I need to turn. And the other key piece was when they run into something, they'll turn. But as it is, they're just doing their random walk and avoiding things. And sometimes they'll go down the tunnel, like that guy just went down the tunnel, and he's going to go all the way around and come back out the tunnel. There's no intelligence there. It's just the random walk, and he's trying to avoid the walls, and he makes it back out the tunnel. I just think that's really cool. Total, one of those emergent behavior kind of things. At any rate, what I want to work on tonight is the fact that the contact debugging that we were, was it Shift F12? Yeah, that they're in the wrong place. They're over there. And it's really weird because they're over there, they're in the wrong place, but not in the way that I'd expect. They're one full, maybe they are in the way I expect. No, see, they stay in the right place, but not in the right place, you know what I mean? It's like they're in the wrong grid cell. Let me back up time so we don't get dark here. Yeah, but see, if I cross a boundary, then they move over and they're back here. So it's like it's completely ignoring the zone. I bet that's what it is. So there's probably some place I can go over here where they'll line up properly again. Oops. Oh, all of my Gafen just disappeared. But am I seeing my own contact? Can I do this? Just see contacts? No. That's the other thing, is I want to paste a couple more of these guys around. Okay, so all those contacts are in the wrong place. You can see these are the birds over here, and the contacts they're causing are way over there. But I think if I come back here, no, see, now they're still in the wrong place. But they're in the wrong place in a different way. Yeah, so if I come back, yeah, there we go. They're closer to being in the right place. No, they're not. So I have no idea what's going on, but I need to fix it. And the reason why is because I want to then enhance it so that we can show, in addition to all these bounding spheres that are running around, I want to be able to show their probe, and it's going to tie into the same sort of stuff. The other thing is, you know, if we have, so the first thing that's going to happen once I get the, you know, the drag support working, is that I'm going to want to know, you know, when my axe hits stuff, you can see it's hitting and knocking me back, but I need to be able to stop the animation when it hits there and not let you swing it any further. And I need to be able to detect sort of how hard that contact was, so I know how much damage to do to whatever you hit. You know, whack, whack, whack. You know, so like I need to be able to see these contacts and debug them and see where they're hitting and so on and so forth. And it's just, it'd be nice if the contact debugger worked. It's kind of fun. So in order to stop the animation and let's whack some chickens or some Gafen. Yeah, see, it's very awkward. I mean, it'll be different when the animation's hooked up because that'll limit what it can do. Anyway, that's the contact debugging. And I did mess with Fayd a little bit. I sent a I fixed her face and I gave her some swing animations and stuff. It's nasty. At any rate, you can kind of see over here. I fixed her face to not be a pan anymore. You know, pan face. And if we look in, that's just been bugging me for a long time. But I have like a strategy for dealing with the animation stuff. The idea being that as you drag the mouse left, right, or up and down, it would interpolate between some poses. And currently I have those poses set up. Forgive her state of dress here. So I have those poses set up in like, you know, where she's swinging the sword up at the top, and then, yeah, this is gonna, swinging the sword up at the top, and of course there's some stretching and stuff that happens here that I've got to fix. But we're just trying to get it working right now. So she swings the sword up at the top, and she can swing the sword down at the bottom, or swing the tool down at the bottom, and then, you know, I'll interpolate between those, and I'll either try that, or there's the other one where she swings up and down on this side and swings up and down on this side, and I'll interpolate between those depending on which one looks better. But this gives me artistic control over sort of the poses, and especially with you know, with the swing up here, I can potentially, you know, tweak several of the frames because I'll interpolate between the start frame and the end frame of this particular animation, and then interpolate between the two animations, which is something that the JMonkey engine can already do. Blend two animations. That's what this was for. It's just not hooked up to anything. And so then, you know, as you drag the mouse up and down, it'll pick, you know, some interpolation of this based on the state of what's been hit and the state of where you are. I can already see there's a, you know, 100 different weird control scheme things to fix, and you know, there's just 100 things to do, but I'm just trying to get something functional so we can get the feel of it. I just feel like there's something there because as I drag the sword around, it's fun. It's awkward and frustrating, but fun. And so I'm hoping that I can find a sweet spot. The biggest issues are things like, for one thing, that it starts with the sword pointing in the middle, and probably we want some starting stances so that you can just click and swing, and it'll have already started to the left or to the right depending on how you wanted your starting stance to be. And maybe we can learn different stances, and different tools would have different starting stance. Who knows? That's for now the middle is okay because we can drag it left and right. We can play with it and get the control scheme right. The other thing is, I found this is a big one that I just discovered, and of course it should be obvious, but and I'll show you what I'm talking about here before we'll waste another 4 minutes or so on this. So in addition to the fact that it's still kind of awkward to swing when you're in first person mode, and now we've got our set daylight back again. So when you're in first person mode and you go up to whack something, like you think, oh, I'm whacking, you're just so far away from that. You have to be really close in order to whack anything. Like now I'm close enough to whack it. And it feels especially weird over by the trees because that's where you'd really want to use the axe, right? Still, there's something here, right? I have to be like really close to the tree to whack it. And like right now, so it's kind of fun though, right? It just needs to stop the axe when I hit and stop moving me over. So it's just frustrating because, as you can see, even now, I'm swinging that axe way out farther than my arms would normally let me swing it. And it still feels like I have to be way super close to things. So I may have to play with camera FOV or some other tricks to make the first person view, because it looks like here I might be able to swing and hit, but like even with the axe out as far as it is, I am so far away from this tree I'm never going to hit it. See, still I'm just barely grazing it. So there needs to be for one thing, the swing would normally be wider, as far as it wouldn't be pivoting around this little point in front of me, but that doesn't really change the range. The other thing is, I think maybe we need some trails from the axe so you can sort of see which angle your swing is happening, and it's a bunch of sort of quality of life things once we get the basics working. I just feel like there's something here, right? And this would definitely allow me to tap into the physics engine to make it so if you're not strong enough to lift this, you can only do low swings, and if you get enough momentum up, you can really get a powerful chop and stuff. There's a lot here, and so I think it's worth spending a bunch of hours trying to get that set up and see what happens. Worst case comes to worst, we go back to click 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 click, chop chop chop, click 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 click, boring stuff. But we can always do that. At any rate, so that's where we are, and in order to get all that stuff working, I need contacts working, and so I thought I'm not in a position to play with animation tweening tonight. That's really what I wanted to do to get this swinging working. But in the meantime, I do need the contact debugging work, because the first thing that happens once I get that twisting, once I get this animation tweening working and we can hit things, is I need to detect that. I need to know where I'm hitting, and it would be really nice to see the contacts and their normals, maybe color code them based on material. I really hope to get all this stuff working over this Christmas break. So anyway, without further ado, let's start looking at the code for, hey look, 9:15. I did waste another 4 minutes. Exactly. So, all right. So this is the contact debug state, and what I believe is somewhere in this neighborhood. As you recall from previous my Chromebook decided to turn off while I was waiting. So can I turn it back on? Yeah, this is a waste of time, isn't it? Why did my Chromebook turn off? Yeah. Alright, well, that's annoying. Okay, so I can't use my pen to draw, so at any rate, we kind of remember that, you know, let's look at this grid here, right? It's like we have, our camera moves around in, you know, this grid as it crosses a boundary. You know, we kind of keep the origin here and render all the stuff you know, around us, and then as we move into a new thing, everybody shifts. It's all calculated local because the world space is really big and so on, and then we move this as a conveyor, blah blah blah. That's a previous video. And so basically whenever we cross a boundary, you know, whenever the center grid cell changes, we change all this other stuff. And I just feel like something in here is wrong because they weren't updating. They were moving along with us, sort of. We're moving in the wrong direction. And so there's somewhere in here, either the positions don't get updated correctly. So we just got to unpack how these contacts are done. And I don't remember how I wrote this, so we're all in this together. So let me relearn what I've got going on here. It's pretty typical stuff. One thing is that this is assuming well, there's a problem. We're basing all this on camera position, and in the kind of situation I just described, the camera position is meaningless because it's always relative to the local area. So we need to hook it up to the world position, and the body debug state already does that apparently because that was working. You know, all the bounding shapes and stuff were working. So apparently we've hooked body debug state up correctly. And how did we do that? So we look in here. Is something setting the position? Body added, static body added, update center. So this is also using camera get location. Oh, you know, maybe I'm wrong on what this means. But let's look at the differences between the state that works and the state that doesn't. So let's line these two methods up. So in this one we have, in the working one, we have a camera position world, we have an eye location. In this one we do not have the eye location, and we do something different with the camera position. Otherwise these look a lot the same. Okay, so what do we got going on here? Yeah, so camera position is within the view space, and our eye location is world space. Center is based on world. Center, update visibility, update positions. And over here, camera world, which may be what we called eye location here. Yeah, so we do have it. We calculate view origin. We add the local space for the camera position. Yeah, so this is all right. But this grid cell to world, we don't do that here, what am I using that for here? Here's what I'm using it for. Alright, we can check and see if I'm using it for anything else. Yeah, update positions. Yes, CI. This one doesn't do this anymore because it's built into update positions. They are always relative, and we don't need to move the root around because we're not in continuous mode. I think maybe if I comment this out, it's going to break somebody else probably. Update positions. So let's see what happens. I mean, it'll either fix it or break it worse. Or it'll fix it for this and break it for some other app. And I'll leave a comment to myself. Alright. Almost forgot what we were going to test here. Okay, we should be able to see it even with Fayd. So Shift F12. I can't tell if we're getting contact. Yeah, look. Hey! It's working. Boy, she generates a lot of contacts. That axe. I think I know what's going on there. So, that's weird that... Okay, so what it is that the contact arrows are a full meter long. But they're in the right place. If we pop some of the Gafen down, you should see their contacts. Okay, yeah, see we got contacts running through the middle of them, and when they run into... This bug took a lot less time to fix than I thought it was going to. So... I was waiting for one to run into a wall. Yeah, they try their best not to, so... So it's actually good when I see them not running into walls. That means their collision avoidance is... The collision avoidance is hitting before they hit something. If I run into them, I should get contacts. Anyway, we see that they've got their floor contact. I've got my wall contacts there. If we go back to the axe, let's do the sword. And let's go to first person mode. Yep. Yeah, see we got lots of contacts. So I know why that happens, or at least I'm 99% sure I know why that happens. Yeah, see if we lay it down. I think that's not supposed to happen, but it could be that it is. And actually it's alright, right, because we would want to know sort of how the sword hit. It's just wasteful from a physics engine perspective, because if we could find the best contact, that'd be the one we'd want. But what could be happening, and I can't really see, I guess I can if I'm running through here. I can't really hold the sword up into my face, so I can't see inside of it. But what happens is, normally when you put blocks together like this, I'm going to turn off the physics debugging because it's really expensive. You know, normally when these blocks are together, it's not drawing the surfaces between it. So if you could look inside here, right, sometimes we can see inside. What's the best way to do that? So anyway, I'm sure you guys have seen it before. You see how there was no, there's no, we saw in there for a second, and there was no surfaces in there because it culls out all of the surfaces between the blocks, and it's possible that it is not doing that for the sword, and that's why it generates 100 contacts every time, because the okay, so I need to start out looking down. Yeah, so you see it's got, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to leave the seams out, and then we shouldn't get multiple contacts, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. It's not causing a problem. So, and the contacts debug is working, and that's really what I set out to do today. So live stream over, just kidding. So we can play with, if there's a way for me to get the, frame visible count. Oh yeah, contact debug state is still running. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Oh yeah, contacts, cool. That was the next thing I was going to look at, but it's already working. That if, like, it's showing contacts without having to have all those bounding spheres, which is useful for debugging this kind of thing. Whack, whack, whack. You know, the other thing is it might be cool if the camera moved slightly while we were dragging instead of totally freezing. Anyway, that's a whole bunch of control schemes to work out. We can go hack down, pretend to hack down corn. There's definitely something there, right? Okay, so if we wanted to debug the probe shapes, we've got to thinking. It's pretty much a requirement for any next step of, the other problem is the Gayfin are calculating their shadow, their drop shadows based on their T-pose. I don't know if that's how I saved the Blender file or saved the GLTF or not. But we've got to be able to see the probes and debug the probes, and I'd like them to be separate from this view if possible. But I want to be able to see the probes and potentially any other perception bubbles that we create for the AI. So any next step in the AI, I'm going to have to see that, because I spent, 15, 20 minutes just tweaking the values and running again and tweaking the values and running again until I got something that looked nice, and it would have been way easier just to be able to see, hey, see, you didn't get stuck in the corner. That took so long to get working. And then to be able to add contacts from those to the contact debugger. So, yeah, I'd expected getting this far to take longer. So what can we do? How can we add a debug state? I don't know, it's just fun to watch these little guys run around. They're buddies. Okay, anyway. How many people am I boring on the stream? Only like 2 or 3 now. All right, so I'm going to leave a comment to myself here. Commented out the above to get it to work in a non-continuous mode. This is in the open source code, that's why I'm like Mythruna uses. This may break code that uses continuous position updates. May need a fancier solution. And then, by the way, it's a good practice to date your comments. Actually, I'll just do p-speed. P-speed. That's the format I usually use. P-speed and then the date. Because sometimes seeing whether a comment is 5 years old versus 1 year old is useful information. Okay, so the anatomy of a debug state, and this is going to be interesting because we don't, so the complicated part of debugging the where'd my tools go? Jeez, it's awesome. I lost my tools. Where'd they go? Maybe if I refresh. I want to just delete all that stuff. There they are. So let's delete. Yeah. So, you know, the does it have text? Okay, cool, it does. Physics hangs out over here doing its thing, or part of the wow, this is awkward. Game thread. Okay, so the game thread has a bunch of systems like this. Can I just move it? Yes, okay. So the game thread has a bunch of stuff over here. Can we do, yeah, boxes. Here we go. Okay, so game thread has, you know, physics and all this other stuff. These are all in, when you run single player, they're all in the same VM. So this is the VM. Oh, well, let me VM. But it won't let me. Yeah, all right. So they're all in the same VM, but there's networking going on. Meanwhile, over on the other side, you actually have the visualization, and that's on the render thread. Visualization. There we go. Sorry. So we got render thread. And yeah, so render thread over here. Ooh. Yeah. Can I just select thing? Oh, this is the most annoying. Whoa. Cancel. How do I cancel? Oh my god. By the way, there's a draw.io, which is way better for creating these kinds of things. I use this because it's a networked whiteboard, and I was supposed to be able to draw with my Chromebook, and then I have the stylus for that. But anyway, so you've got the game thread over here, which is on its own thread, doing physics and things. You got the visualization over here. And normally they only communicate through the networking, or basically networking /entity system, and they never meet otherwise. Oh, jeez. And so, but when we have the visualization for things like the contact debugging and the body shape debugging, we know that we're tapped right into the physics engine, and so we can tap in directly. The thing is, for physics, we already have listeners for that. We can listen for when objects are added and removed to the physics engine. We can listen for when contacts are created, and we can create debugs for those. For the things that are the probe is actually part of the mob driver. It's attached to the physics object, and it intercepts some things about it. That's probably useful to mention. So every rigid body in the physics simulation can have a control driver associated with it. Control driver. Most don't. You know, your average object does not can have a control driver associated with it. Your average object does not. You know, the random, you know, of a rock or whatever, sword falling through the air, you know, different things. But anything that wants to control itself, like a player or a mob, has this control driver, which allows it to override some of the physics that's happening. It gets to intercept all the contacts and nullify them or do things with them, you know, change the forces that they're applying and things. In the case of a player, you know, it's receiving input from the keyboard and the mouse, you know, through the networking, and you know, applying forces to the player. In the case of the, you know, the Gafen, the mobs, or the agents rather, agent driver, it's asking the steering system, you know, for forces based on contacts it's gotten and things like that. So, long story short, these are over here in this thread, and we have this visualization now that wants to look at the control driver's probe, and I have not implemented that as a entity component, so we can't get it through the entity system. And I'd rather not, for a variety of reasons, but mostly time and space and all that other stuff. And so we'd have to tap the visualization into this control driver somehow and look at what its probe is and visualize that. And that gets, you know, kind of tricky because these are two different threads, and we want to do it in a way. So basically from here we would want to put some kind of system or listener in the game thread so it sits in line with the physics system, and we can query things about the physics system as it goes. It's maybe more complicated than I want to do in a live stream, so maybe that wasn't such a great idea. I had kind of hoped that this contact debugging thing would take longer, because the other thing is that the agent driver, did I close those? So movement, holding system, I did. So player driver and agent driver should be nearby. AI, agent driver. So agent driver does a bunch of stuff, right? It gets new contacts. It actually keeps track of its contacts in a list, and we could query that at the end of thread, and we could return the probe. Alright, well, let's start with, I think it'll probably be educational, so let's start with just making an app state that will be our visualization, and we'll see how far we get with looping it into the physics system and all that other garbage. What do I want to tap into? I think physics debug state. So this is where we're adding those other two states, the body debug state and the contact debug state. So this is probably where we would want to add our probe debug state. And so let's go ahead and create that probe debug state. And my editor is nice enough to fill out a lot of stuff for me. Oops. Okay, so we've got the basic app state set up, which means we can add it. What are we going to want to provide? Yeah, probably it will want the physics system, so let's pull in physics state, physics space rather. And we know it's entity ID and mblock shape space. But we're going to need more. Yeah, see. We're going to want these host systems. Hosted game state. Yeah, maybe we just give it that. Let it find what it wants from there. So when you're in a single player mode, it's got this hosted game state, which is managing the quote unquote game server that's running within your same setup, which is why we can access it and do different things, because it's all within the same Java virtual machine. And so here we could also do this, just like we did up there. But we call this one space, and we can be smarter about it. Play with generics appropriately, and that means we're going to want to do we're going to need the other. So this is the part where you guys who use IDEs can say, see, it would have done it automatically for me. I think we want everything. Yes, I'm not even grabbing the shapes here. So I think we'll just be indiscriminate and see if it even compiles. And I get dinged for the dumb thing. Okay, so it can't find hosted game state, of course not. I think that's it. I was right. Okay, so we got that. And entity ID, yeah, so we need a bunch of these things like this. There's mblock. Yep, we need that. Okay, let's try that. Should be most of the things. Oh, still don't have mblock shape. Oh, at FizzB, yeah, so. Yep. Just regular fizz. Okay, so. So, I mean, you guys who have your IDEs fill this in for you. That's fine. I actually use this time while my brain is while my fingers are doing the data entry part. My brain is thinking about the next 3 steps, or talking to the live stream. So that's a way of multitasking. I find I need these little brain breaks where my fingers can stay busy and I can do other things. So yes, we added the part. So that's, I think we got everything we need. And let's go add child new probe debug state. We'll give it the host. And we want it to be able to work independently, but somewhere, yeah, here we go. debug functions. I'm going to add another one. Oh, probe debug, I already set it up. Maybe I started to add this before. Let's see, find that name, start script. While that's searching, I'm going to go ahead and add the update method here. Cannot type today. So debug function. So I know I set it up and I mapped it. I just haven't hooked it up to anything. So it's set up to be, yep, hey, Control F12, that's what I was going to set it up as anyway. Perfect. So then let's log info update just to see when it's working and when it's not. And then on enable, we add probe debug. So this is the boilerplate to get a new debug app state hooked up. Okay, so then we need to have a toggle enabled. And that looks like this. Oops, we spell it right. So basically, if we're enabled, we want to be not enabled, and vice versa. Alright, so if we run, and if we didn't do anything dumb, and it compiles and runs, ta-da. Okay, continue. It's like I try to tell my college student when we're working on their college intro algorithms program, it's like, run often, test things often. Don't try to write the whole program all at once. Write it in little pieces. Hey little guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete them. Doink. Because I want my debug to be pure. Oh, it's already, oh, it's turned on by default. So then I should be able to, you can see down in the bottom here, got all those probe debug states updating. But I should be able to then hit Control F12 and turn it off. Yep. Okay, so it's on by default, and I need to change that. So now we can turn it back on, turn it off. Okay, so it's hooked up. It's not doing anything useful, but it's hooked up. And we'll fix it by saying set enabled false. I think that would work. I'm pretty sure that will work. Okay. So now what we want to do is when we are enabled, I want to add a listener system to game system manager, and that will notify us, well, we just get to tap in on every update. That is not my preference, but the thing is, when a so when the physics engine, how best to describe this? So, you know, we talked about, you know, we've got our grid here, and you know, I'm sitting in here, you know, looking in this direction maybe, and the you know, there's these other objects that are around here. The physics engine actually only loads the stuff immediately around whatever active zones there are, An active zone is defined as wherever there's moving physics objects. But there's a whole big world, and if nothing's moving over here, those aren't loaded, even if they're mobs. So if there's a Gaphin walking over here, let's just draw that as a Gaphin, right? If he's walking over here, it's possible, because there's no player nearby, that he's been shut down and he's not actually walking, and there's no control driver, there's no rigid body. And so there's two ways a control driver can get associated with a rigid body. When we first detect that the control driver, or that the entity has gotten whatever component it needs to get a control driver, we'll check to see if there's already a rigid body and we'll set it in. So that's way one. Way two is, way one is one entity system detects, and then two, there we go. Two is physics system loads it. So I can delete these. So one is the entity system detects that there's a new component. It says I need to stick a control driver in that rigid body if there's one. So we see that the agent info gets set on the entity. We look up to see, hey, do I have a rigid body for this particular Gaphin? Yes, I do. So I set the mob driver or agent driver on it. The other way is that when the physics system loads the object for the first time, or not even the first time, but when we get to that zone and it wants to load that Gaphin, it looks up, say, hey, all right, I'm creating this rigid body. Hey, are there any component? It talks to a listener or factory. Life is fine, good sir. It talks to the entity system and figures out that, hey, this rigid body should have a control driver, and it sticks it in there. So there's two different ways, which means we can't tap in easily to any listeners, and so we have to make some assumptions and then check off and on update. This is not going to be efficient, but so we want to add a listener to the game system manager so that every update we can check for drivers. And what we will want to do here is have like a probe debug view that we keep track of, and an entity container which we'll use to watch for mobs specifically. So our agents, container agents, and we'll treat this like a regular let me make sure that that particular component is, see, the thing that makes an agent agent type. Yep, it's persistent. Okay, so agent type is what we want. And so basically any object that has an agent type, agents equals new agent container. I'll write agent container in a second. Let's go ahead and and we'll make some assumptions for now. This DD is new entity data. Oops, not new entity. What am I doing? We're on the back end, so we ought to be able to look at the back end entity system without going through the network. Is doing that dangerous? Because we're on, well, age. All right. We just have to remember that this is not on the same thread as agents start. And agents update. I think I need TPF, maybe not. We'll see. And agent stop. And private class. Agent container extends entity container, and we want to probe debug view. So we're going to keep track of each of those little probey guys. Super ed, and what we want is we want agent type. Now it's going to complain that I haven't implemented some methods, and I'm going to need to make sure we put those. So let's see if I got it, at least that right. And it'll complain about the missing methods, and yes, and apparently I missed a keyword here. So I'll just try to get this boilerplate hooked up, and then we'll probably call it a night, because yeah, so see, it's not overriding add object, remove object. And so got to return a probe debug view. And so this is sort of the standard watching a set of entities boilerplate. So we'll go ahead and log info, add object e, and probe debug view object equals new probe debug view e. So in Zayas, this is sort of Zayas with the SIO2 libraries. I think it's like this, right? That entity container is really useful for kind of wiring up these things. I think it's just void update object probe debug view object entity e, and then we could update it. Same with remove. So this would get called anytime the components of the object change. So if the agent type changed, and just as a force of habit, I always make sure these are hooked up right. And then this gets called whenever the object is removed, which for the Gaphen happens quite often. So let's see if we've at least got that hooked up right. Yeah, that's not a statement. What you doing there? Entity, not entity, entity. So, how are you today, Iffy? Okay, so it compiled. That's a good sign. Do we still have any Gaphen walking around? I think I killed them all so we can see the updates. Alright, got a little jittery there. Let's make sure that all the debug stuff is going away. In the meantime, we'll grab our little thing so we can create Gaphen. Boy, somebody's dumping a ton of... Wow. Okay. Click. And then we should be able to then start the probe debug state. Yeah, so now update, 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 update. I didn't take that out. Let's make another Gaphen. Pause this, check the... probe debug state update, probe debug. I'm not seeing it. Let's, first of all, let's exit out and get rid of that super annoying update. So we've got, we start the agents, we update the agents, we stop the agents. Let's grep probe debug state and Mythruna client log. Aha. Yep, so it removed it. Why did we get it twice? We had two of them apparently. Oh yeah, I placed two, didn't I? So one of the ads should be up here. And an add and an update, just like we expected. And then somewhere way up here was another, add and update, because there was an ad when we turned it on. And then I added another one after. So yeah, all that's working. So I'm set at this point if I wanted to continue, and the next steps would be to add this listener so that for every entity we're managing, we could see if it has. So let me just leave a note for ourselves, because I probably will not continue this tonight. I really want to play with animation and getting the swinging swords working when I work tonight. So for the live stream, we'll stop it here, but I'm going to leave a note for myself. So we are going to add a listener system to the game system manager so that every update we can check for drivers. For that, we will see what probe debug views we have and whether we've seen a controlled driver or a rigid body yet. Check for control drivers, etc. And we will update the visualization with the probe shapes with all of the regular grid, relative position stuff that every other state uses. And so I may wait to do this, now that we've gotten the basics hooked up here, I may wait to do this until next Friday's live stream. Unless I turn out to need it way sooner than that, or, we'll see. I don't know if anybody has any questions. This is sort of where I'm going to end it tonight. Thanks for joining the live stream. Once again, I want to thank my patrons for the support, especially at this time of year. It's really nice that I have something to offset my server costs and business registration fees and all that other crap that comes up at the end of the year. And thank you for joining the live stream. Sorry we did the exciting part really early, but hopefully you guys liked the time debug available in the Patreon builds. What do you mean by time debug? Oh, you mean running time forward and back like I do to move the sun? This is the part where the delay really kills me. So I'll hang out for a second while we deal with these chat issues. So hopefully you can see. Let's see which time debug the rolling sun forward back. Yes, the rolling the sun forward and back. So that's specific to how Mythruna does its time debug state. The regular demos, like the netcare state, the next netcare, when we run here, well, there's several of them have a debug pop-up that they are using. Those demos are using the SimFX library, which is one of my other libraries that has like a sun app state and a lighting app state, and manages all that. And they have their own debug states where you can pop up a property panel and mess with the time of day. It's not quite as nice as, hours, minutes, and seconds. You just move the angle of the sun or the inclination of the sun, and you can set, all the atmospheric parameters. I don't know which ones I'm set up to run. Oh well, I can actually show you in Blockhead, or yeah. So I'm going to run the Mythruna version of Blockhead, but Blockhead is one of the open source tools in the Moss stuff that is available to Patreons, right? They're Patreon patrons. But if you look in here, so hold on, come on. And I'll open something that's a little tease, maybe. Chest tests. I was playing with treasure chest builds, maybe. Trying to figure out what kind of treasure chest we would have in Mythruna. Anyway, so over here in the settings, there should be, yeah, sun orientation, time of day. So you can set the sun to move around. These are using the the atmospheric stuff. Where's the sun? There it is. So this sets the time of day. We can set it sunset or whatever. It's like 0 to 2, where 0 and 1, or anyway. And then the orientation is sort of the if you wanted it to be like not east west but north and south, you could move that around. That's just regular radians. So you can already do this. A lot of the things already have one of these settings that you can pop up. In fact, some of them have even more, because they'll provide all the atmospherics, where you can set the Rayleigh scattering and all those values, and the red and green and blue attenuation and all that crap. Oh, jeez. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Yeah, I wish there was like a clearer indicator that was happening. So here I am playing with something that you guys can't see. So here I've got like the Blockhead up, and it's got one of these standard debug panels with the settings, and you can change the sun's orientation to be like north, south, or east, west, or you can change the time of day, which changes where the sun is in the sky. These are some treasure chest ideas I was playing with. The most of the debug states for like these pop-ups that happen in some of the sample apps will have more about the Rayleigh scattering or scattering parameters, MIE values, and the red, green, blue attenuation, all that stuff that changes the way the atmospherics work, the stuff that's making this particular sky. But the one that Mythruna uses is very Mythruna specific, because that's using game time and hooked into the environmental time settings and stuff, which is still specific to Mythruna, and the general system that uses has not been ported back to this, which uses kind of completely different lighting. I hope that answered your question, even though I spent like a whole bunch of time talking with a Patreon screen up. I'm rather fond of this treasure chest, though I can't do it in here, but I'd want to set it on the carved mode, which sort of changes the scale of these. It's probably kind of big. I made a fake chair here to show how when it's shrunk down to item mode, it would sit next to a chair like this. But I'm rather kind of fond of this one because it's sort of small and compact, and the lid and the top are separate. But this one's nice because it's got the nice banding, and I could put actual hinges on it. Anyway, the final treasure chest may actually be multiple objects put together. Like I may make a wooden box and then separate banding and just composite them together, but we'll see. That's what I was playing with. But yes, so there is already some time debugging stuff in those other. The lighting that those others use usually already have some kind of pop-up that lets you set the time of day. To answer your question in a really long, boring, and stupid way, because I didn't have my visualization up. So anyway, so that being said, I'll go ahead and if you have other questions, you can ask them on the video comments, or if you're on the Discord, you can ask them in the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, you can ask me and I can send you links. And while I'm there, at simsilica.com, IMPspeed, or you can find me on Twitter at simsilica or at Mythruna Game. Either one of those. If you DM me on either one of those, I can send you an invite to the Discord, or I guess if you're already a patron, then you probably already have access to the Discord. You even have access to the private channels. So anyway, thanks for watching. Go forth and be productive and so on, and I hope to see cool things that you guys make, and I will keep posting the cool things I'm making. And in the meantime, we'll just keep cranking away. Thanks, guys.